Hey everyone, this is Ricky Martin. It's the Recruiter Ricky, Series 2 of the How to Get Hired podcast. I'm with a guest that we were hunting down, tracking for Series 1. Very busy man, very experienced, and amazing story. And I think there's a lot of, when we go through this, what you find is a lot of conversations, hopefully that are relatable to most people. So I'm joined by, I'll say the full name, Alan Barratt. However, we're going to use the term Al for sense, and one day when he gets his knighthood, he will be Sir Alan, which is very similar to a business partner that I have. But Al is the CEO and co-founder of Grenade. They are you might be able to sell them better than I will in a moment, Al, but they are a nutrition and supplement brand, which I have personally used. So I'm not being paid to do this. I'm not getting free supplement. I personally used and had benefits in my training. They are a worldwide organization, and a brief snapshot of the story. They were founded with £27 and sold for the reverse of 27, £72 million. Have I got my facts right, Al?
You have, yeah, broadly.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Ricky, for having me. And I was just saying, we were just on off camera as well, and I remember actually watching you on The Apprentice. Was it 2012?
2012, you're right. You got a good.
So I think because it was the year we launched 50 Cal, which it turned out that obviously you using for your wrestling career while you were wrestling bears and other stuff and rolling around in jam and taking 50 Cal and other stuff that you used to do, obviously. So yeah, it's great to catch up with you. Sorry, it's been a bit, it's been tricky getting together. Everyone's busy, but we finally made it.
Well, what's great is despite how difficult the world is right now with COVID-19 and the impact coronavirus had, it's great that actually you'll find it's bringing people together. We were struggling to get this working with where we both are all day long in different. So the fact that this has brought us together is great. And where I think your story is really interesting, I think, it's a great success growth story of a business that anyone could admire to. But to do that, as we said before this podcast, you can't do that without great people. You had to have hired good people. You'd have to have developed good people. You'd have to have trusted people. And that's the thing that I think will be really important that people hear when we move on to that, how you've gone about selecting good talent for your business and what they can learn to help themselves get employed. So rather than me giving a very quick 30 seconds, this is Grenade, I'm going to pass over to you as the co-founder and CEO to tell us a bit more about the company and how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. So as you said, co-founder and CEO of Grenade. This wasn't my first sports nutrition style business. It's the first brand I've ever owned. Prior to this, I had a sports nutrition import and distribution business. So I've actually been in health and fitness and around supplements for 30 years actually this year. So I started when I was 14 years old when I went to my local gym, and then I went on a work experience and they never got rid of me. So I've been interested in supplements ever since, both for my own use and just because I've always been interested in performance, and I've been very interested specifically in the military. I have been since I was a kid. So then I had this distribution business, which we fell out of love with. I say we, because I started that in 1999, met my wife in 2003. She came into that business in 2005, and then we sold that in 2008 after really having the idea for Grenade, which goes as far back as 2006. So between 2006 and 2010, we just sort of trademarked, protected, saved up, and sort of thought about what we do. We put a lot of planning into Grenade, which is why, although we're sort of 10 years old, pretty much last week actually, we did quite a lot of groundwork before in terms of protecting it. So Grenade was founded in 2010, and although we didn't really have any money, we knew a lot. And Jules and I are just both phenomenally hard workers, and I do think what you lack in probably brain power and other stuff and luck, you can just make up for with sort of sheer hard work. So we powered ahead, and for the first 2 years we just had one product. We didn't recruit anyone at all. We worked from home, and then it was actually when we were 4 years into the business, we'd never had a day off, we'd never taken a salary, and the business is valued for £35 million. So we pretty much kept half the shares, rolled half the shares, went again, sold again more shares in 2017 to Line Capital for an EV of 72 million. And then who knows where we are today, but still CEO, still enjoying it, I think, despite everything that's going on.
30 years in a very, very competitive industry, because you can go online and Google whatever you're looking for, whey protein, creatine, pre-workout, you get 1,000, and sometimes it's the person who's paid the most to put it on pay-per-click to be top of Google is what you click on. How have you been able to stand out in that market? Because it fascinates me. I look at it thinking, yeah, I'd love to have one of these, but then you sit there thinking, actually, it's really so hard to stand out in the crowd.
Yeah, so it comes back to probably learning when I had the distribution business and I was an importer for a lot of these brands, and they were well-made product that were badly distributed or badly marketed, and there was really poor product that was well marketed. And I thought, actually, if you could make and as a user anyway, not just of sports nutrition, but of any product, you know, I'm a consumer the same as the rest of us, and I hate it when I buy a tool to do a job, or, you know, a product that's supposed to do something. I'm expecting something, and it doesn't do it. And I was just repeatedly disappointed with other brands. So in the end, I thought, actually, and also the range of product they had that you just didn't need. So because I was a distributor, some of these brands would have like 200 products more, and 99.9% didn't sell. And as an importer, you've got to import it all. It just had these slow-moving products. I thought, actually, I'd always looked up to brands like Red Bull and Coke, things like that. So I thought, actually, if we have a brand, let's just focus on one product. Let's protect it. It's a very copycat industry, like you've said. So let's actually create a real brand, something that's protectable. And then, now we've got 200 design marks, trademarks, and patents just on Grenade.
The first product you brought to market, Al, what was that?
So that was Thermodetonator, which in 2010, which is our weight loss product. Still 10 years on now. It's one of the top selling weight loss products in the UK.
Out of curiosity, as a nutrition brand, did you go after weight loss as the first kind of product area because it's more people are looking for weight loss as opposed to weight gain?
Yeah, it appeals to the most people. It worked for the tooling that we had in mind. So because we were called Grenade, and we decided that having just the name Grenade wasn't enough, we wanted that Grenade bottle as well. Yeah. So therefore, if you didn't know the name but knew the bottle, you knew the name. So it's just one of those unique brands, and this was all actually quite carefully thought of. But if you know one, you know the other. When I've worked in gyms over the years and I've been recommending weight loss products, say, to people, they couldn't remember the names. They're all very scientific. They're all in generic white bottles. They all look exactly the same. And you couldn't pick one out of a shelf. And as you've hit the nail on the head, that's the problem in the industry. You just have to have something. It's not the best product that'll work. It's the best remembered product that will do well. So I thought, actually, what if the best remembered was actually the best product? And I think having kind of those two and that double edge, having the name and the bottle really helped. And then, but you imagine if, we've got this idea to make a Grenade bottle. So you've got to be something relatively small to fit that bottle. And weight loss had been my expertise in knowing about, having friends who are biochemists and other friends who are supplement producers. But had that been a protein powder, for instance, well, all of a sudden, your Grenade bottle's like 2 feet tall nearly. So it just doesn't work. So, and one thing retailers don't have is elastic shelves. Remember, this isn't pre-internet, far from it, but internet and digital sales aren't my speciality. I used to work in a shop, I used to work in gyms, so I understand that face-to-face selling and creating theatre in a shop, which actually, dare I say it now, a lot of brands that come to the forefront are probably very digital, and actually they don't have the theatre in stores, and stores have been forgotten about a bit. People just think it's all about .com, which is critically important, but how much Coca-Cola, would they sell if it was just an internet brand? What about Red Bull?
It's funny you say that, because a lot of lead generation these days, most people are targeting everyone through mail shots of some capacity through emails. It's funny these days as a business owner, when I get something in the post, which is a well-presented pitch on a piece of PDF, it's funny how I read that better, because that's the theatre and the drama of what engages me than it does having those 50 mail shots where all I do all day long is hit the unsubscribe button as opposed to even look at the product. So I like the idea of theatre, and I guess your prior background in the gyms meant that you understood your customers better than just what they're buying. You understood what they want, what their eye attaches to, and building those. And dare I say, the whole Grenade thing is a bit cool, isn't it? And you think about it. You're walking in with... It's quite cool.
There's kind of... It could easily be sort of cheesy, and we've tried to avoid cheese because it's a gimmicky industry anyway. And anyone that says it's not a gimmicky industry, he just doesn't know anything about the industry. I mean, a lot of these powdered type products, for instance, it's kind of powdered milk, really. It's more technical than that. But it's certainly though the American brands of Newton Mass and blah blah and all this, and got quite wacky names. So we sort of took it a step further, and all good brands I think are just extensions of their founders, and they end up being whatever the founder wants them to be. So that's why really for me, as someone who trained myself since I was 14 years old as a user, enjoying interacting with people, I worked in gyms for 10 years. And listening to what they wanted and what they were trying to do, what they liked and what they didn't like. And even we learned a lot with thermodetonator, for instance, in terms of, people don't like taking capsules, believe it or not, because they either can't physically swallow them because they're too big, or there's too many of them, or they forget. So we were one of the first brands. Actually, all of our competitors at the time were 12 capsules a day. So we made sure ours was 4. And then we had the challenge of actually getting, more active ingredients into less capsules, which meant a more expensive product. And we were behind with regard to tooling, so we spent a lot of money on tooling. So it was kind of getting more and more and more expensive. But I would just firmly believe, and touch wood, this seems to have paid off. Consumers will pay more for something if it's better. And I think nowadays there's just so many people who just don't get that, and they want to be the cheapest. Every week I'll have someone contact me and go, "We want to sell your stuff online." And I go, "Well, okay, well, you and everyone else, why are you?" "Oh, well, we'll be cheaper than everyone else." "Oh, well done." It's just like, everybody wants to be cheaper than everyone else. So actually, every now and again, it's quite nice to be sort of reassuringly expensive, as I think Stella Artois used to say.
It's going to help you stand out. People will talk about, because you are right, you can get every Me Too product in the world that offers you a nutrition product, and you don't know if it works or doesn't. There is an element of some that you pay a bit more, it's probably going to be better, and it's probably going to get there. Out of curiosity, I mean, you've probably had this asked time and time again over the years, but I'm going to put it out there. Grenade, to me, instantly, I'm like, that's quite a cool, hard, like a man's brand. How are you able to make it attractive and presentable to females? Because it does feel very masculine as a brand. How have you been able to break down that side of the market?
Do you want to have a wild guess at how many? Have a guess at the male-female split of our consumers. Just have a wild guess.
Now you've said that, it's going to be, the higher percentage is going to be female, now that you put that out there. But I guess if I was product testing to start, I'd say, well, that one might attract me. Would it attract my wife? But I'm going to go 70-30 and bias to the females on the basis that you've asked me that question.
Okay, well, it's 51% male and 49% female.
Wow, look at that. What a great blend.
It shocks everyone. And I'll tell you for why. Because not probably the case now, but certainly 5-6 years ago, maybe, we were the only brand that weren't patronising women.
Yeah.
So, we were going to get a listing with Boots, for instance. And bearing in mind, we've got this time now the Thermodetonator, and it's the best-selling weight loss product in the country by a mile. I don't want to generalise, but I've never, ever met, certainly a woman that doesn't want to lose weight, and certainly most men, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
So, Boots contacted us, want to sell the product, but they don't want the green one. They want a pink one for women. And, we won't do it because, there are other brands out there that do a lot of this, and we just call it pink it, shrink it. And I just think I don't want to say it's offensive to women, but it's a bit like, well, here's the man's one that works. I know you're a woman, so, we must make it smaller because of your little delicate hands, and we'll put kittens on it and we'll make it pink for you. And we've done it too strong, so we'll make it, because you want the weaker fat burner, don't you? And they're going, no. Again, from working in gyms, women are nuts when it comes to weight loss. They'd be taking twice the amount that the men were taking. So I think, when we think that, we sort of don't patronise women, and we are a serious brand, we make serious product for serious people like military and specifically special forces and Olympic athletes. These are serious people, but we don't take ourselves seriously. And then when it comes to, male-female split, why can't the woman have the man's one?
So what's nice is you've stayed true to your core principles. This is our product. This is our authentic product, and we're not washing it down because that's what you think people will buy. This is what we believe in.
Do you know where the inspiration came from for this? Do you remember the Yorkie advert years ago?
Yeah, it was no women or just for men.
It was not for girls.
For
girls. Yeah, so women went out and bought that overwhelmingly in huge numbers.
Yeah.
And I think it was something like 70% women bought that because it said not for girls. So I think nowadays, where everyone's kind of quite precious, and it's a different generation now to certainly my generation as such. You've got to be really careful. What you do and don't say. The last thing you want to do is kind of stereotype people, like I said, into that, the pink one versus the green one, so to speak. But yeah, so actually we walked away from Boots, not once, but 3 times over not making the pink one. And sure enough, now, we're in Boots, but not with our weight loss product, but we're in there with our drinks and bars. But we always said that, Jules and I always said, actually, we would stay true to the brand. Because again, this all came from experience. Brands sell out. Brands do just sell out all the time, especially when, founders sell big stakes in the businesses, and why wouldn't they? And because it's risky, and we don't have kids, so my neighbour, for instance, he built an £800 million fortune, never got married, never had kids, died at 67, left it all to charity. So I'm not saying that's not a nice thing to do. What I'm saying is, you don't want to be the richest person in the graveyard, to be honest, because business is risky. It's hard. We put huge amount of sacrifice and effort into it. And actually, there's nothing wrong with every now and again saying, do you know what? I want something to show for all the hard work. So hence why when we've had decisions of selling and carrying on, we've always wanted to carry on, but we've always kind of rolled a stake and taken a chunk off the table because we've always been happy having a smaller share of a much bigger business. So it's or you can own 100% potentially of something that's small.
Well, it's the typical dragon den dilemma. I always say, take your 20% for what they're offering you because your business is going nowhere on your own. Keep 100% of nothing, or retain 80% of something that has a value with these people. I mean, I always sit here thinking it shows so short-sighted. A decade on, so the business officially launched despite all the pre-work early 2010. 10 years on, tell me a little bit about size of business, so where you're distributing in the world, revenues, if there are things that you're happy to disclose. Where is the company now 10 years on from that brainchild of your wife and you in 2010 and where you are today?
So as of March this year, we have the best month we've ever had. It's obviously been interesting since then, but we're still doing very well. Not as well as we were doing, because obviously a lot of the shops are shut, but best month we ever had. And the size and scale of the business, really been on track this year to do probably between 80 and 100 million in revenue. And we are in 80 countries in a fairly meaningful way. And when I say meaningful, we've got kind of retailer support there. So thousands of retail stores across the US, Canada, South Africa, Australia, India, nearly 5,000 pharmacies in India. So, and again, there's all that, the other sort of smaller ancillary countries, but growing rapidly across Europe through petrol stations and forecourts and airports, and so on. So, and then 70 people spread across 3 different continents. And then, COVID hit, but it's just a matter of adjusting. We're enjoying kind of feeling a bit more like a startup. So, we've got everyone working from home. A lot of the channels like food service and coffee shops and so on, of course, are closed. And ironically, all of the best locations to have fast-moving consumer goods in the UK, like airports, train stations, coffee shops, became the worst place to have fast-moving consumer goods in the UK because there's no people. So luckily, we've got a very substantial digital business as well, and we work closely with all the retailers. So everyone's just been kind of learning on the feet, and this will just be kind of the year that we almost lost a year.
So do you think
but actually, we've got a better business
when we're fully out of COVID. If you consider that you diverted your attention from the best places for FMCG product to be purchased to what would have been probably your less favourable, do you think you'll recover with actually dominating as best you can both sides of those markets, the footfall and the digital footfall?
Yeah, what's actually happened is we've ended up with a smaller business because unless you make hand sanitizer, everyone's ended up with a smaller business. And actually, one of my closest friends owns a hand sanitizer factory who was going to sell it last year and then didn't. So best thing he ever didn't do. But our market share has actually grown. So we've had a smaller business, but a better business. So our market share has grown from 38% to 44%. And the market itself, the category that we operate in, has shrunk by about 53%, but we've shrunk by 45%. So we're beating the market. It's not ideal, but we're not concerned. And this is part and parcel of learning from business. And one thing I always wanted to do, I remember when we were 2 people with one product and pretty much one customer in one country. And, if something goes wrong, you've lost your entire business overnight. So with them, that's actually why we ended up having more products, more retailers, more countries, because all the time you're kind of de-risking. And, now being in Australia and, obviously not with the US, but being in Australia and the Far East and selling to China, for instance, as those countries kind of unlock first, we've got a better business than ever now across Australia, New Zealand, and China. And as the pandemic's kind of, move west and it starts to reopen, we can just focus on the countries where you can do well. We'd actually just launched in Germany, which again sort of had so far managed it pretty well. So we've always been, de-risking as we've been going along. But you just, like I said, this happens with business, and this is where having that, bricks and clicks, we call it, where we kind of got a lot of bricks and mortar retail and also a very digitally contemporary brand that's quite savvy as well. So you can just make the most of whatever's happening at the time, really.
I feel sorry for anyone that's kind of... I've written that down, bricks and clicks.
Bricks and clicks.
I like that.
No problem. So and I feel sorry for anyone that didn't have such breadth, in the business. Because you think, actually, I always thought, really, because something you get asked a lot is, well, what happens if people's habits change and they stop buying your stuff? And, you can say, what if, for lots of reasons. But I thought, God, if something comes along and wipes out every retailer, people don't want to eat anymore. And, it takes out all the gyms, and not just in this country, but the whole world. We've probably got bigger problems, but pretty much that's what happened, to be honest. But we ended up just focusing on things like operations that we never really get a chance to focus on much. Because when you're in the just day to day, you just ship stuff. You're not necessarily doing it the best way, but when you're busy, you just get it out there. Because all of a sudden then everything pretty much shut down, and we hadn't got inbound containers. We hadn't got, air freight was 10 times more expensive. We had to really start thinking about refining and operationally how we got better. So we just focused on making a better business, but without losing that key messaging for consumers, keeping our social media going, and think about where we could just, as I said, really have a better business coming out the other side, rather than kind of the woe is me, it's a disaster, we're all going to die sort of thing.
What you shared, I think, resonates with two different types of people. Anyone who's in a business, in a senior role, or owns a business. De-risk yourself is what we're saying. Try and look at different markets, different customers. So if one of them does fall short, you've got other areas to lean on. You're not kind of pigeonholed to one. And to an employee, that I always think when people join a job, they can't always wait for their manager, their director to say, do you want to take on new training, new things? The more you build skills within a company, when you join a firm, the more opportunity you have moving sideways. If there are times of struggle like this, times of change, a business pivots into a different direction, the more skills you've got, the more employable, the more kind of pivotal you are to that company. So what you've shared works both for people running a business as well as people when they're in a job or looking for a job, to be as, I'm not saying a jack of all trades. What I'm saying is become masters in many trades.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, because when say Jules and I first decided that we needed to employ people, like I said, it took us a couple of years because we couldn't really work out what we needed. We got no premises. Think, actually, you've got to employ somebody who's going to come and sit and work in our house. And aside from that, then, I was sort of doing the selling and making the product, and then, wrapping pallets and delivering them to, one of our two distributors we had at the time. And then, bits of social media, because that was starting to take off. And then Jules is kind of doing marketing and branding and everything else, invoicing and paperwork and, all the trademarking and IP. So we just kind of split the roles 50-50. And then if you're going to take on one employee, what do you need? Because we don't have a warehouse really premises. There's no need for like kind of any warehousey type people. The NPD I'm doing, we haven't really developed the brand as such. We're developing it. So it's not like you need a marketeer. It was actually really hard. So it was only until we got premises, and then we actually brought someone in who's still with us, actually, Sarah, who came in as our office manager, who's a friend of Jules's from the gym. And then she came in just to super organised, just to kind of help take some of the day-to-day work off our plates, where we could go and do other stuff that was just a bit more specialised, let's say. So, Jules was sitting there kind of invoicing all day, and you think, actually, you can get someone to do that. So take it off your plate. Yeah. But, not everyone can go and do marketing or social media and go and do branding. So hopefully, and it sounds really obvious the way I've just said that, but the amount of people that come to me, and they're in a similar position where they're looking to make their first, early hire, and they don't work out what they want, but they don't really think, what they're best at. Yeah. What they have in the role that is a skill that's some kind of a transferable skill. Give an example, actually. I did a TV show a few years ago with a Jason Manford called The Money Pit, and there was a woman on there, and she got a protein bar. In fact, it wasn't a protein bar; it was just a nutrition bar facility in sort of on the south coast, I think. And she came in kind of looking for this investment for this facility, and she built this facility from scratch. And she was kind of like a nutritionist and chef, so there was nothing she didn't know about it. And she kind of got lucky because Jules and I are in crowdfunding. We know a lot about making bars. So it all gone horribly wrong for her, because her first hire, she went and hired a salesperson, because everyone told her to go and hire a salesperson. And I've never recruited a salesperson in my life. I can't stand salespeople because I hate being sold to. Yeah. It's back to that extension of the brand. So if you can get someone who is a good communicator, who's likable, who's trustworthy and reliable, who does what they'll say they'll do when they say they'll do it, and they do it to their best of their ability, you've got a good, and they love your brand, you've got a fantastic salesperson. If they think they're a salesperson, you probably don't have. But what she'd done, she'd hired a sales guy, and it had been a disaster. And then what was happening was she was somehow just buried in finance. And I said, can I just say straight away, I said, the best salesperson for your business is you. I said, so why are you doing all the finance stuff? She went, well, there's no one else to do it. I said, are you a trained bookkeeper? She said, no. I said, how many hours a day spending doing that? She went, 4 or 5. I went, that's the easiest job in the world to find a bookkeeper. I said, hire a bookkeeper, get rid of your sales guy, you go out selling, and it's that simple. And she's like, it was like I just shown her fire for the first time. And it sounds easy when someone explains it back, but we're in a similar position ourselves. You just can't quite think what you need. But it's exceptionally difficult to find people without a shadow of a doubt. And I think when you get probably beyond 10 or 12, it probably starts to get a little bit easier as roles become a little bit more defined. Because to your point, you go and get like a lot of mini entrepreneurs, because you don't want someone that can just do one thing. Because, I think the first marketeer we looked at hiring when we were probably about 4 people, he came from quite a big, really nice guy, came from quite a big retailer that we respected, but because he worked with 1,000 other people, we couldn't actually work out what he did. Because I said, well, do you do graphic design? No, I've got someone that does that. Okay. Do you do? No, I've got someone that does that. Well, can you do this bit? No, we've got someone that does that. And then I said, just joking, I said, do you empty your own bin? And he went, no, we've got cleaners to come and do that. So I just thought it's amazing how many people in these big organizations, have got people there that actually sort of don't do a lot. And you could go and just take them all out. It would make no difference whatsoever.
I think sometimes, and a lot of people are looking for work, it's not just because they want a job to support their life. Sometimes it's, I want a job at this company for this reason. It's a great brand. It looks exciting. But you are right. If you're joining an SME business, a small to medium-sized enterprise, whether they're at the start or on that early stage journey, you have to accept the fact that your job description is going to be a bit grey. You have to understand that actually one day you're doing this, but then you might be asked to pivot over here, move over here. If you join in a small business, be prepared to take on more jobs than your job description defines. And if you're somebody who says, I only want to work in a black and white job description, I can't work outside of that, go and apply to the big companies, the big corporations where you are very, very good at what you do in a great business, and you'll be efficient. You join a small company, you're joining the wrong culture. And sometimes people get that wrong. They need to look at what they like doing. Some people love having the autonomy to do 1,000 different things, and they're great at an SME, and you'd probably love to hire them early on. But you're right, the person who can't even wipe their own backside in a startup venture is never gonna survive or add value to the company. People need to be real about what they like, and therefore apply to the appropriate businesses.
Yeah, and I think lots of people think they want to go and work in an entrepreneurial brand because it sounds amazing. But then again, and in some respects it probably is. But then working with entrepreneurs is quite hard because we expect a lot. And you remember, there's pretty much no job in that business I can't do because I've done it all before. So I can't do graphic design, but I know a bit about it, and I could bodge my way through it. It would look horrific, but I know it looks good. So you're not going to show me something that's shy and I go, oh yeah, good job. So I used to do all the I was effectively finance director before I actually when I got someone who was competent. But when Tom came in as sort of CFO, he said, I've never inherited a balance sheet so quickly because I was busy and doing lots of other things. Any invoice that just came in, I just pay it that day. And I had complaints from suppliers saying, you're messing me up, you're paying me too quickly. I said, well, look, I'm busy. So if you don't want to be paid, just don't invoice me. But the day I get that bill, I'm paying it. But, and actually by doing that and paying people really quickly, I think we invented the ability to negotiate discounts of invoices because I'd pay one of my foreign suppliers quickly. He could then pay his supplier quickly. And then we started negotiating better prices. So all of a sudden, that sort of, because we got the cash to do it, paying quickly was, worth probably 5 to 8%. Well, you don't get 5 to 8% sat in the bank. And actually, when our first private equity company came in, they wanted us to put everyone on terms, and we lost the 8%. So we were giving away terms, but we were worse off, and I could just never get my head around it.
Ironically, what you've shared there is a great partnership in a supply chain. Ironically, we're in an environment right now where the supply chain is trying to do the complete reverse. A lot of companies are trying to hold on to their cash as long as they can, extend those payment terms. Everyone's looking after cash because it is king right now. How have you been able to maintain? I know a lot of that was when you were operating, and then you brought in a financial controller or a CFO to focus on that. How have you found the supply chain with you during this time? Because ultimately there are elements that you need to purchase. How have you found the supply chain?
Yeah. I mean, really robust. We've got fantastic. You said about having relationships with the supply chain. I'm a little bit old-fashioned in the sense that I really believe in everyone doing well that's, involved in the chain. So, all of our supply chain leading up to, let's take bars for an example, all of our supply chain leading up to us getting our bars, I want them to make money. Because if at any point they're not making money, we're just going to suffer, because they're not going to keep on sending us stuff, for free or to lose money. It has happened, believe it or not. But, if we'd like mutual agreement, but I want them to do well. I want to get the best product that we can develop. Yeah. And I'm not overly sensitive, what I pay for it, provided that, it's what you can sell it for, really. So provided that, we can sell it and we can make our margin middle, we can make it operate, I'm fairly relaxed. And again, I want consumers to get, the best product they can. Yet they're not going to get the cheapest product if they're buying Grenade, but also if you're driving a BMW, you're not getting the cheapest product either. So there does come a point where, like I said earlier, people just will pay more for just stuff that's better. Anyone can just knock out something that's cheap and nasty, but that's just not us, and it just never will be. So I think having had this relationship with the suppliers coming into this, and they've seen, we make not just the best-selling protein bar in the country, we make the best-selling chocolate bar in the country. So you can imagine the volumes that we chew through some of these facilities. So we're pretty important to them. So again, just, absolute transparent conversations of what we need, what they can do. And so far, touch wood, everything we've needed, we've got. It has been tricky with supply chain, but we've never run out.
Because I admire that, because I do agree. I think every business is its own living organism, and every part of that needs to basically benefit and work together mutually. Let's consider that you're now a company of 70 staff, you're across the world, you've got people in different locations, in different areas. Although that could be a core belief of yours, the supply chain needs to all benefit, we need to work. When you've been hiring people, inevitably there'll be people whose first objective is probably, let's smarten this up, let's save a few pennies, a few pounds here because it will help the balance sheet, but it's not helping. How have you been able to identify people who can be efficient, yet still stay to your core principle?
Do you know what? It takes years. I'm smiling because I think of a specific example, actually, but there's many of these. You're right. You don't want someone to come in who absolutely nails everyone's hats on, with cost, because obviously that's not how we've operated. But you don't want someone just coming in and going, whatever, not my money, it's ours money, or it's, Line Capital's money. So, what the hell, I get paid every month. You don't want this laissez-faire attitude either. So this is the tricky bit then, because you've got this big grey area in the middle. When we had our CFO come in, for instance, where you've got our thermodetonator box, our fat burner box, you've got that Grenade bottle within a box, because you can't get all the information on that bottle. So the box is important. And also from a theft perspective, there's a transparent window in the front of that box. And when our CFO came, he identified that transparent, that perspex window was the issue that really we always had with production of the boxes, because it was the complicated bit. Printing cardboard's easy. That perspex box was, if something went wrong, it was always to do with that. But we'd managed that. But it was a big chunk of the cost of the box. So if a box was 50p, let's say, that window was like 13p. And he said, if we just don't put that window in the front of the box, it'll save us like 30 grand a year, which is a lot of money for any size business, and certainly was back then. But to my mind, it was ruining the product, because he was making the product sort of worse, because then you just have this like big hole in the front of the box. And, you couldn't quite steal the product, but you could if you were kind of spent enough time and effort with it. And it went from looking, as you said earlier, kind of quite cool, to just looking a bit cheap and nasty. And I just said, no, not over my dead body. And
you still have it in there now?
Yeah. Yeah. But
what I would say, if you got rid of it, you turned it into an Easter egg. That's what you've done.
Yeah,
removed
exactly.
It, now an Easter egg.
Exactly. Yeah. So what we did actually do Easter eggs this year, to be fair. But it's a constant. It's a good example of, say, in this case, Tom Murphy, our CFO coming in, one of the smartest, hardest working people you've ever met. I mean, honestly, one of the best hires that we ever made. He's been with us 6 years now, and he's a shareholder in the business. But coming in perfectly rational, sensible idea, save money. You couldn't fault it, other than the founder and the person that invented the product just didn't like it because it ruined the product. And it's just sort of, so on one hand, you've got all the sort of the rationale, and on the other hand, you've kind of got, the entrepreneur.
So how did he demonstrate to you? Because if somebody was coming in again tomorrow, you're right, a rational, logical thing that will save you money.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong.
As the founder, this is your baby, and you don't want your baby being put in the wrong clothes. That's what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
How are you able to still see, although he's rational, he gets where we're going with the brand and protecting it? Because a lot of CFOs might be, well, this is efficiency. That's what you're paying me for. I should pay for my own cost in the business by the savings.
Yeah.
How are you able to still think he's the right person for our business?
Yeah, I think just having that mutual respect of and again, even before he got the job, I mean, we had 489 people apply for that role, and that was 6 years ago. So I met the top 3, and again, and they were all good, from an interview perspective. He stood out literally because he's 6'8", but also, he went over and above, the extra mile. I mean, I gave him I always give out, if I interview anyone, I always give a business card. I'm quite old school like that. Today, I've only ever had one person use it, and that was him, which I find absolutely bizarre, because if the CEO gives you his card, use it. So, he texted me, or I think he emailed me, actually, then texted me asking how the process was going, if there's anything I could share with him, and just really intelligently and sensitively, it's kind of like, nudging the CEO who's busy, saying, have I got the job? And me at that stage, probably not knowing yet, and again, I always replied and said, look, we'll get back to you if we hear anything, don't call us, we'll call you, sort of thing. But there was a big show that weekend, Body Power show. So, we, Jules and I went to this show, and again, there's the sort of 2 of us and probably 2 or 3 staff and like a team of athletes. And, he came to the show, and he paid to get in. He bought all of our products, and he'd already bought them online beforehand, bought everything, tried everything, came up, and again, just did it perfectly. You can't teach this. Yeah. A lot of people come up to me at shows, and they're a bit of a nose, and it's actually a bugbear of mine, because you're paying £5,000 or $5,000 very often an hour to be there, and your mates just pop up for a chat, and you're like, fuck off, I'm working. You can see your mates anytime. And he came and said, look, I don't want to bother you. I know you're busy. I bought all your stuff. I love it. The stand looks amazing. Have a great show. That was it. And kind of walked off. But, all the time thinking like, God, this guy really, cares. And as an entrepreneur, you can't ask for anything more than someone that sort of cares, like you do, really. And this is just where you have that mutual respect of, we'll discuss stuff, and I'm good at what I do, and he's good at what he does. And then, you sort of make a decision. But I've never really had a difficult conversation with Tom. If he thinks I'm wrong, he'll tell me, which is brilliant.
All recruitment processes are really competitive like that. And what's nice is he hasn't done anything, which sometimes isn't, just sensible common sense. What he's done is he's made himself more human to you, because he's given you a touch point. He's made himself rememberable to you, and he's used the tools you've given him, a business card. Yeah. And he's had enough self-awareness to realise that event's costing you money. But do you know what? You've remembered, and 6 years on, you're still talking about him coming to that event. He did his job. Hey everyone, Alan and I are just going to take a quick coffee break. Well, I say coffee break, a virtual coffee break, because we're both in our own homes. So we're going to go to our own kitchens. We're going to grab a coffee. While we're doing that, one thing I just wanted to let you know is, please go and have a look at the Recruiter Ricky website. There is, of course, the entire podcast there, but there's loads of other videos that are useful for people that are either looking to hire people more successfully, the employer, or they're looking to get themselves a better job. So have a look at the Recruiter Ricky website. Check out some of the other podcasts. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave us a review. Really appreciate all of the support. That's why we're doing a second series. So, right, I've pretty much finished my coffee. I'm going to guess Alan have, because I can't see him. We're not in the same room as each other. So let's go back over to the podcast again. Let's pick up on the conversation. Here we go with Alan Barratt, CEO of Grenade. What if I take that back a step? You said, was it 489 applications? Is that what you said?
There were, yeah.
408. How did you get from 489 applications to 3 people to interview? Because that's a piece that a lot of people get wrong. That's the CV bit. That's the non-human element. That's the, here's some words on a paper. Do you want to see me? How did you get down to 3 then?
So by me not being involved whatsoever. So actually what happened was, in fact, it was 2 of the guys from, so at this point now, because this is when Growth Point Capital invested back in 2014.
Yeah.
And said straight away you need a CFO. So that's what this process was. I'd never used a recruitment consultant before, actually. And we kind of got lucky in the sense that, because it's, again, a specific role, in this case, finance, it's kind of a fairly well-trodden path. And I'm guessing, because, you'll know way more about recruitment than me, but I imagine, there, where someone's kind of well connected in finance, it's not just like, broad sales roles or things like that. So we used a guy called Jamie Rodden, who just knew, again, a lot of local candidates who would probably be right, who weren't necessarily looking. So used him, and he worked with 2 of the guys from Growth Point Capital, Clive and Avatar, and they just literally just sifted through everyone to kind of give us the 3. And of course, out of 489, there's probably a good chunk that, weren't going to, make the grade for that level of role, which was kind of operational CFO. But yeah, they did all the filtering. And again, that's the hard part. We get now easily between 400 and 500 job applications a week, just because people approach us without even advertising for anything at all. I mean, we just advertised for one actually, which was Chinese speaking. It was quite a specific role, and we actually filled it pretty quickly. But the number of people that came to me and said, actually, I've seen this role, is staggering. But that's kind of, as well, a little bit of a bugbear of mine when we're advertising a role and people just go straight to the CEO. Because despite the fact I've just said that, in Tom's case, that's more of that was when the business was like 6 people. Yeah, and the business was 6 people. So I was interviewing at that stage. I think, as we get to this stage now, as much as it's nice for people to say reach out and put themselves on the radar, I think that's all they should do. So I think I've had a few where someone's reached out to me and said, actually, I've applied for this role. I love your business. I'd love to come and work for you, and I hope I do well and wish you all the best. That's great, because he doesn't really warrant a response. Yeah. I don't want to confuse that with people that just kind of like, have I got the job? Have I got the job? Here's my CV. Here's my CV. Here's my CV. I'm a personal trainer and I love training and stuff. And you just think,
yeah.
Well,
it's have some awareness, right? It's if somebody is applying to a role, you got to look at the level of the role and who it reports to. That's the person you're really trying to convince. And what you've probably got is a third party, either an external recruitment company or an internal HR or talent team going through. You need to appeal to your stakeholder, appeal to the third party, whatever that might be. And if there's an opportunity to let senior people know, but don't hound them, don't expect a response, don't chase them. If you can make yourself memorable, great, but don't expect to get anything from them.
Yeah, exactly. And don't get me wrong, I love the hustle, and I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself. So, in one hand, you don't want someone that's not hungry for it, but on the other hand, you just want them to use your common sense. Because remember, if we're looking for, say, someone that's an account manager role, and it's going to be working with Tesco, they've got to find the right person to talk to at Tesco. If they can't find the right person to talk to at Grenade, they've got no chance finding the right person to talk to at Tesco, because you can't just go to Dave Lewis, the CEO of Tesco, and go, who do I talk to, mate? And again, the amount of people that contact me and just go, I want a job in graphic design, can you tell me who to talk to? We just think, I'm not the switchboard for the business. Search Grenade, search the graphics department. You'll find the head of creative. You'll find half a dozen graphic designers. Ask one of them. It just feels like a really lazy way of doing it. Like, if I was having a struggle,
it's there for a reason now.
Exactly.
It's a great networking tool, but it does map out companies at any point. And I'm going to ask you a question on one of your posts on LinkedIn recently, which
oh god,
no, it's a good one actually. I think it's a nice thing to discuss with COVID. So you had a great post you put out less than 2 months ago, which has had over 12,000 engagements in terms of likes and reactions, which is the one showing a lot of the Grenade crates that you were sending out for the NHS during these times. And you haven't mentioned it, humbly not, but I'm going to ask you, tell us a little bit more about how you've been helping the NHS heroes, because this is a remarkable story.
Yeah, so that's just had just over 1 million views actually, and I discovered I'm not really big into socials at all. So I'm on Facebook. I don't really bother with Twitter. I do a bit on Instagram, but we've got lots of ambassadors and influencers have got huge followings on Instagram. But you need like something that's quite visual for that as such. I was probably a bit late to the Instagram part, and I don't really post that much. But I've kind of found my following, I think, probably with LinkedIn. And, generally I'll be reaching, between 2 and 4 million people a month quite easily on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I said that post had just over 1 million views, but probably the biggest reach I've had is probably about 2.5 million. And yeah, if I do like a post a week, I'll have 100,000 or so views. Yeah. So what happened with that was just about a week before lockdown, so sort of mid-March, the sort of the senior team, and I would call it G9 because it's like the 9 of the senior managers at Grenade sitting down, and of course, we know there's something serious coming with COVID, but we don't quite know what. The hospitals are gearing up. Tom, I mentioned before, his wife is a nurse, so yeah, you've got a bit of an inside track into some of the stuff that they're doing. Already seeing, some of the issues happening, in Europe, so we kind of know what's coming. And we've always, Grenade's one of those brands where, yes, we do a lot with military, but that kind of became broader in the sense, not just military, but anyone's kind of serious about what they do. So anything like blue light services, we call them. So, doctors, nurses, emergency workers, police, all branches of the military. People who are just kind of, most of these people probably tend to train. I'm generalizing. So, and we're kind of like the edgy brand that they'll look for. And again, busy people. So we'll be the type of brand they pick up when they're running through a train station or an airport. And I'm saying to the guys, we really need to think about how we can send some stuff out. Because again, we wanted to send some stuff to Tom's wife, Eve. And we said, yeah, just give them some cases of energy and whatever. And just as we were talking about how it'd be nice to do something bigger on a broader scale, but how would we do that? How would we donate some product because they weren't going to have a chance to eat? Again, through LinkedIn, I had a Dr. Kate Brunning, I think her name was actually, and she sent me a message saying about she was an anaesthetist at one of the London hospitals. She loved our bars. They were sort of stopped gearing up. They weren't eating properly. Is there any chance we could supply some bars for some care packages? So we're like, great. So it just kind of fell into our lap. So we said, like, yeah, here's some stuff for your ward. She shared it on her social pages. I shared it on mine. And I think then within a few weeks, we'd done 818 pretty substantial care packages. We had to be careful. I mean, almost like a pallet's worth per ward. So we had to be careful how we did it because the last thing we wanted was, COVID victims coming in every 5 minutes. So it was a pallet of grenade stuff turned up. You can imagine, that's kind of like a wasp at a barbecue. So we wanted to make sure we did it so we weren't a nuisance, which was important to us. So we started doing that. And then just through some friends of mine in the military, I had Ron Dennis reach out to me. Wow. And just as we were kind of starting to not wind up these care packages, but obviously we're a business, we're also trying to ship out stuff that people are paying for. So the free stuff was kind of getting in the way of doing that. And Dennis from DCS, our logistics partner and warehousing partner, was fantastic. They picked and packed all the orders for free when they found out what we were doing. So everyone been super supportive again through the whole supply chain. But then Ron Dennis reached out to me, and then Ron had got this idea then to do something kind of bigger and better, which is his, million meals for the NHS over 12 weeks, because his daughter is a doctor as well as an anaesthetist, I believe. And he said, actually, we're doing these care packages, we've done energy packages, and we've got people providing fruit and blah, blah. But when we're asking people what they want, most people are saying protein bars. He said, and like, you make the best protein bars in, the UK. And this is from the founder of McLaren, so he said, look, I know you don't know me, you can just say no, but is there any chance, you can help us with this? So we provided 250,000 drinks and bars for them. And I think we've done another 100,000 on top of that since. But all that got shipped to one location, to Absolute Taste in near Bicester. And then that's been put in various care packages. And again, it sort of found its way out there.
I know, I don't know if a lot of people are saying, they probably are online, but thank you on behalf of everyone as well, because
it's our pleasure. It's the least we could do.
Right now, the amount of people that are sitting there in business thinking, Christ, it's a tough time right now. We need to protect every penny we possibly can. Every piece of stock, we need to get it out, get the money back on it because we've invested a lot of money here. To sit here and get that amount of product out, give it to people to help them to keep the country going. That is taking the commercial hat off, and that's putting the emotional that's bringing your heart out. And that's what's great to see. And to me, it's those things that's the reason why I think you guys are doing so well as a brand, because you stay true to the brand and you've seen people you can help with the brand, not profit off. And that's what's amazing to see.
Well, the brand's got a face, definitely. And, we've had, commercially, it's been sort of, tough with us as well. We furloughed about 8 to 10 people just because through no fault of their own, they just couldn't do their job. So because the channels they're working like food service were just closed. So what are they going to do for the next 3 weeks? So, we absolutely took advantage of that situation whereby we could almost just pause for 3 weeks and save some cash. I think that saved us around about 44,000 in payroll that one particular month. And literally we went running around turning taps off. So as I think lots of businesses did, as she said, this is one of the nice things actually about probably having built the business from just the two of us, because I can look around the business and just see stuff other people wouldn't see. Literally went to the HQ and I said, okay, the bins, what we're doing with the bins, because we don't need bin collections now, probably for a couple of months. Well, that was a couple of £1,000. So it was just, stuff that we could turn off. We absolutely turned off various marketing shows that obviously weren't going to happen. Stuff we committed to didn't happen. So we turned as many taps off as we could. But you're right, the flip side is as well, we're lucky. We make healthy, long shelf life food products.
Yeah.
So, God, there's not many businesses I'd rather have been in. And like I said, other than hand sanitizer, and that's not going to last forever. So I think, we had a really good business to ride this out. So, we absolutely should be helping. These are all nice, hardworking people. So, we did some stuff. This is going to sound balmy, but I've got a vegetable patch at home, and I've got a huge lavender bed. And by coincidence, this year we took out the lavender, and we're just deciding what to put in it. So, because of this COVID situation hit, and fresh fruit and veg was hard to get, and a lot of the local businesses were struggling, we've just turned it into a giant vegetable patch. Like the farmers that live next door can't believe what we've done, but we're just going to give it all away to needy people, because we can just grow stuff for nothing really while people are struggling. And if more people just did that, we'd get through the crisis kind of quicker and easier. And to be fair, I think they have. This has brought out the best in most people. It's brought out the worst in some people. But you won't last forever. And I think I would like to think that the nurse that's just had a shitty 12-hour shift and hasn't eaten anything at all, but maybe had one of our bars or one of our shakes, just, and if it was that, versus nothing, at least hopefully comes out the other side and thinks, do you know what, I'm really glad that we provided that stuff. Because again, obviously we're running a commercial business, but I can't think of a better place to put product than in the hands of people that really need it.
It's incredible what you guys are doing, and you've been commercially savvy what you're doing in the business, but you've also been helping others. And you used a word a minute ago that I loved. You said, we should do this. If we can do this, we should do this. If a lot more people were acted that way, I can promise you we'd be in a much better place than we are right now. And it is going to recover. That's what I keep telling you.
Yeah, of course it will. It won't last forever. And I was saying earlier, so operationally, this is where we learned a lot, because as with most brands that have food, for instance, the stuff was there, just in the wrong place. So some of the bars, we aren't just sat around on millions of bars. We don't know what to do with. Far from it. Our demand very often exceeds our supply. But we had 1 million bars going to the US that particular week, and they got there. We turned them around and bought them back again to give them away in the UK. But again, the retailer they were going to in the US, they could have easily gone there, but we just had to quickly work out, what was there, and we learned a lot. As well by doing it.
But it shows you how agile the business is. I think that's what it shows you. And I would say that's a great example of why people work with, why you get so many applications to your jobs, why people enjoy working with you. So if you could give advice to anyone right now who was applying to a job, it doesn't have to be Grenade, it could be anyone. Considering what you look for as the founder of a company, what's the one thing you think they need to demonstrate at interview which will make them as employable as they can be? You want people to stand out. I don't do the first interview stages in the business, because otherwise you don't have a bad interview if I'm in the room very often, because I don't tend to ask difficult questions. And in the past, I've kind of stuck my head round, ended up in a chat, really liked them, offered them the job there and then, which I shouldn't have done. They've started and been crap. It's all been my fault. So I'm not allowed near candidates anymore. But I think someone's got to really show that they're passionate about the brand. And it's going to sound really obvious, but they've just done some research in the sense that they know what we do and whatever. I have had some people do some really weird shit in the past, where I had one person once, he presented like a dossier basically on me, and all of the groundwork he done was on me, and it was a bit like, I'm exaggerating, but it was a bit like, so here's a picture of you and your mum and your cat. I took this one with the night vision goggles outside. Here's you in the shower. I took this one from the living room while you were out.
I was absolutely terrified. I was just thinking, shit, but I couldn't wait to leave. So we've had some bad interviews over the past.
Some self-awareness, I think, keeping there then.
Yeah, definitely. And again, people are really nervous when they come for job interviews. And I've never been for a job interview because I've always worked for myself. So because I'm clearly unemployable, I don't understand why people are so nervous because I've never had to do it. But when people come in and if I'm in the room, the thing that I tend to do actually is we have a laugh and a joke. I take the mickey because I would like to think at that point, they can do the job, but that's probably half what we need in the role, the ability to do the job. The other half is the cultural fit. And that's what I'm interested in. Because, if someone has got through the first few stages, say with finance, I'm not going to check their credentials. It's already been done. I want to see if they've got a sense of humour, what they know about the brand, what they're like doing. I want to know what they're like because they're the person that, I'm going to throw into the mix with another 50, 60, 70 people. And, as you all know, dynamics change when you bring people in. And, we've had bad hires in the past. Every company has. And if you've had a bad hire, I mean, they say about that one bad apple spoils the barrel, but, that one person turns into a little click of 3, which turns into a little click of 5, and it's just kind of poisonous. And I just won't stand for it, at all. So I would let a lot go at work. I mean, we take Nerf guns into work. I'll buy the Nerf guns. I'll encourage it. They're all shooting at each other and blah, blah. And I walk past and someone dink me off the head. And I don't mind all that, provided people are doing the jobs well, enjoying it, and the brand's growing. If it's not, and it's just turned into a holiday camp, then, I'm a different person because it'll be, well, actually, why haven't you done this? And people are sort of shocked by that then. So I've never raised my voice. I've never shouted down at work, ever. But I think I'm one of those kind of CEOs that actually, if I just say I'm really disappointed in that because that's shit, they'd be absolutely mortified. And to be honest, I didn't realise how much power I had with that when I made a comment, it was last year, I think. And it was just some stuff to do with some data. And I just said, and it was not done anything wrong, but I didn't believe in this particular data that we bought. And I sort of said something that was kind of negative and not to anyone in the room, but it really lowered the tone in the room to the point that, like, afterwards, one of the sales guys said to me, and he said, just be careful. He said, because you've got such a big shadow that, if you say something like that, that's, basically it's crap. He said, it really demotivates people. He said, you're so likable. He said, if you're then not that likable character, he said, it's just, potentially could be really damaging. He said, because people would have been worried about it all weekend. I've just kind of said it, like I said, not at anyone in the room, not done anything wrong, but just said something and then just kind of left. And I've just completely forgotten about it and gone and do something else. And you probably get 8 people there really crushed, so to speak. So I've got to learn as well how to, just basically manage.
Do you know what's great about what you just shared there, considering how successful the business has been, that's been driven by you, therefore how successful you've been. What's great for people to see is when they're considering working for a company, is to remember that whoever the people are in that business, at whichever level they are, we are all still learning about how we act as human beings. We're all still learning on the job, whether the business has to change because of the market. And actually sometimes understand the fact that you're joining a company where you're going to evolve with them. I think that's a real nice humble side to show out, because a lot of people think that their leaders know all the answers. That's not saying you don't know the answer, but it's also showing that the leader themselves also is somebody who's driving the business forward and you're part of that. So that's really nice to show, because I think people forget the fact that we're all human beings, and when you join a brand or a business, you're joining somebody's baby, as I called it. Any brand is someone's baby, and you're joining their livelihood.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I mean, I'm probably more of a wartime leader than a peacetime leader, because if it's, in peacetime, so to speak, there's not that much to do. If you've made good decisions and people are doing their job, and, you're sort of steering the ship, but the ship's already on course. But, during this, I've been able to probably, go a little bit more over and above personally, for some of the team, because, I've employed friends in the past, and 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. But there's nothing wrong with, if you employ a friend, they're probably not going to turn into a great employee. If you get great employees, chances are you can actually become good friends. I think that's what's happened with a lot of the people at Grenade, where, it's a really friendly culture. There's lots of, friendships at work. And, I've got lots of friends that work there, despite the fact they all work for me. And you need people that understand the difference. I've got some of the guys who were like, my first, employees. And, they'll call me mate in meetings and that. And I just, I don't mind that. They've they've earned that. You know, we are friends. I know their good and bad points. They know mine. They've been with us for, you know, in some cases of 8 years. And, you know, we've got that kind of relationship. You don't want someone coming in, you know, new in an interview doing that on day one, because I've had that before. And you just think, well, hang on a minute, I've never met, I'm not your mate. Haven't met you. And that's not a you know, a snobbery thing. It's just, it's a bit like that military hierarchy, such of just kind of just earn that. Again, you know, if I go and meet, you know, Lord Sugar, I'm calling him Lord Sugar. You know, I'm not going, all right, Al. You know, because I know for a fact he'd hate that, because that's just common sense.
I think the reality of what you're saying there, again, it is self-awareness. A lot of people need to realise, you use the term, I use this quite a lot, you've got to earn your stripes. Look, you're right, great people work close enough together that they might spend more time with each other than their loved ones, and they're going to develop a relationship, a friendship most likely, but you've got to earn that. You've got to build the credibility with each other, because I'm not going to call one of my employees on their first day mate or buddy or pal.
Yeah.
That might happen over time. And likewise, I don't want them to call me that either. So you're right. Be aware of others might do things that you'll not quite earn the stripes to do that yourself yet.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, there's something that I believe in at Grenade that you never really hear talked about in terms of business culture, and it's humility. And I think it's because we work a lot with military and elite military. Some of the shit they do, honestly, for no money, you wouldn't believe some of the stuff they do. And again, you know, what's happening now with the NHS and some of the stuff they do, while everyone's kind of, you know, just sits at home and moans about it, you know, is ridiculous. But I do believe that humility is worth a lot, and it's a very, very sort of undervalued, you know, trait, really. And again, I don't consider myself successful anyway, but I know people are infinitely more successful than me. And, you know, I was on a game drive with Richard Branson. This was in 2016. And we got there through Virgin Fast Track. And I happened to have taken some pictures of wild dogs, which was favourite animal. And he said, oh, you know, and this is Richard to me. He said, would you mind if I gave you my number, so my email, so you could send me those pictures? And it's just like, but not like, here's my email, you know, but, you know, would you mind? So my initial reaction is just taking the piss. So I said, I don't remember Richard, to be honest, because next thing you'd be sex texting me. Joan will get all upset. Where's it going to end? And of course, people don't take the piss out of him, you know, as well, because he's not used to it. But so I'm a massive believer, and I'm always saying this at work, and I'm sick of hearing me talk about it. You are always judged by the company that you keep. And I'm a massive believer in just surrounding yourself with great people, which again, you know, is what we're talking about with the whole kind of recruitment thing. But if you can just surround yourself with great people, then, you know, I can go and conduct the orchestra without running around and playing all the instruments. Which I mentioned that to Richard, actually, which he said he was going to nick. So I've got that trademark. So if he nicks it, I can sue him. But even during the COVID thing, you know, I'm quite fortunate in the sense I've got no children. I'm fit and healthy. You know, I've got a gym at home, and I'm very self-sufficient at home, and I've got my veg garden. So, yeah, I've got all the hassle of business, and I'm worried about 70 people. There's lots of stuff to worry about, but there's people, you know, inside and outside Grenade, far worse off than me. So, you know, we got people who are asthmatic, and they've got small children and whatever, you know, who are naturally concerned. And why wouldn't they be? So, you know, one of the Saturdays, I did a 200-mile round trip, dropping off hand sanitizer at people's doors, because one of my friends owns a hand sanitizer factory, and ships them to me, and just left it outside the doors, which I don't know if the CEO of many businesses would do that. But that was actually really, you know, no one knew I was going to do it, but it just, you know, just like I said, left it around the doors and by the bins. And one of my, one of the employees said, actually, so you're the best CEO ever. But, you know, she couldn't leave the house. She's asthmatic. Her son's asthmatic. So, you know, so people are really worried. So that's like half a day. And frankly, there's nothing else to do anyway. You know, you can't, so I felt selfish because I was using, you know, kind of delivering medical stuff as kind of an excuse to go for a drive, because I wanted to, you know, get out of the house. So, you know, it wasn't entirely selfless, far from it. But that stuff's really important, and it goes a long way. And, you know, that's just all part of building that culture. Because if you do something for them, they'll do something for you. This never works if you've got someone kind of taking the piss out of the other. You know, and
I think that reciprocates top to bottom. You're doing something for them, they'll do it for you. But likewise, as a new employee to a business, do something for the people around you. They're going to look after you as well, and onboard you, help you understand the business, help you understand the culture, and give you a better shot at fitting in. So I've got two final questions I'm going to look at. One's focused for you guys and one's focused for our audience. So what's next for Grenade? So whether there is the next 12 months or so.
Well, we've got a new product launch this Friday.
Wow.
28th with a new limited edition bar that's coming out.
Is that the one that you put special delivery to my house? Isn't that the one that's coming here?
Definitely not. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that is definitely not in the post. I'm sure we can organise sending it. I'm sure we can figure something out. We've just made a giant Grenade hot air balloon, which is built, just being registered at the moment as a new type of flying device. So that'll be the tank for the 2020s. I mean, obviously, the limitations of what we can do now this year and where we can go. Like I said, I'm enjoying it, kind of feeling like a startup again. And in some respects, the pressure's off with lots of things, because where we're deliberating about big corporate events and big marketing events, we just can't do them. So actually, someone's kind of come in and said, yeah, you can't do all of that. So just kind of, go and be creative, which actually is perfect for me and us. So very much more of the same, and building the brand internationally, getting back to where we were at the start of this year, with our Q1 numbers and all the boring stuff like that. But otherwise, I feel like we're just getting started. So we've just done a recent just soft clothing launch, because we've made clothing as long as we've had the brand, for 10 years. But people really gravitate towards the clothing that they love it. So we're definitely, although we would say we're a bit of a healthy snacking brand, we aren't really. We're a brand that does healthy snacking, but actually we can do clothes and other stuff. It's not just kind of drinks and bars. I mean, there's lots of things we've missed out on this year that, again, I was looking forward to, again, because like I said, we do some stuff with some special forces guys, and they let me blow things up, whatever. So that hasn't happened this year. So hopefully we'll make up for that next year.
Yeah.
But I think I genuinely really want all of our team to be, safe and healthy, keep growing the brand, and really just keep having fun and just keep doing stuff that's not been done before. And of course, all the travelling's off, so I've not travelled since early March. But there's still quite a few trips that have been cancelled. But I think just getting the brand, back to where it was.
I've just written down 2 things that you said there, which I absolutely love. Keep having fun and doing something we haven't done before. They are 2 great mantras to for anyone working in a company to do. Play freely right now, have some fun, do new things. Thank you. Exciting time. Obviously, COVID permitted what can and can't do. The hot air balloon thing sounds incredible. I assume you've invited Sir Richard along with you, because we know how much he likes his hot air balloons over the years.
I've shown him, actually. I showed him that, but I showed him the initial designs back in December, which he absolutely loved. In fact, and he had some suggestions, which he didn't quite understand, and I didn't want to clarify with him on email. But he was a bit of a fan. And again, that weirdly hadn't occurred to me until afterwards. Which was strange, but it was only just I was out in the Middle East, and something jogged my memory. I thought, actually, no, love, and we'd already been building it since the start of the year, the middle of the year, and I said, actually, Richard will love this. So I just sent it to him, but he loved it. So might go for a little flight in that.
And the other question I've got for you is more recruitment oriented. If there was one final, other than we'll do the quick fire in a moment, which will be secondary. But if there's one last bit of advice you could give to anyone right now, if they were a job seeker, what advice would you give them?
I mean, this has been a fantastic period, I think, for reflection for everyone. I'm sure you, definitely me, thinking about really what's important. I'd imagine there's a good chunk of people now thinking, do you know what, my job's bloody amazing because of X, Y, Z. And the firm have done this and that and didn't have to, and it's been brilliant, and how lucky I am. I imagine there's equally the same amount of people who don't feel that way and are desperate to go and do something else. So I'm actually going to steal Richard's words in terms of screw it, just do it. And I think, if you're looking to, you spend a long time at work. If you're not happy at work, myself included in this, you do have a choice. Most people do have a choice. Do something about it. I mean, I know people, a friend of mine, Carl Locko, I did a podcast with him actually a few months back. He inherited he was a former gang leader in London. He inherited his mum's toilet cleaning round. He was earning £140 for 2 weeks of cleaning toilets. And he decided, and actually that got him out of that gang life.
Yeah.
And now he's kind of partying with Richard on Necker and is an ambassador for Big Change and doing stuff with Strive, and that's how I met him. And it's incredible, the lot that you're given does not have to be your lot. So It's not necessarily going to be easy to get out of it, easy to change. Change is never easy. But to anyone that's absolutely stuck in a rut, wanting to do something about it, now is probably, there will never be a better time to do something about it, because I think now, in the period of life that we're having, a lot of this, I mean, there's things happening now that you'd never dream of happening, and they're just getting kind of brushed through. The fact everything's been shut and that it's just been forced through in such a record pace. These would have been unthinkable, probably would have taken 5 or 10 years to get to some of these decisions that have been made. So I think now is the time where almost anything goes. And I think people find that quite scary, but I find that quite exciting. We don't have to do a lot of this stuff. We're thinking now when we go back to work, actually, do we all have to go back to work? Are we all going to have 70 people back in the office 5 days a week? Because let's try and find a better way of doing it. And in fact, we've got a call tomorrow morning with the team about, okay, what's the better way of doing this? Because, I don't want to be necessarily in an office 5 days a week, either for 12 hours a day. I'm sure lots of people don't. So let's try and find a better way of doing this, where you've got a bit more of a, not work-life balance, but like a work-life blend. Yeah. And I think, again, as you've said on the talk, that there'll be lots and lots of companies throughout this whole pandemic who've either done amazing things or, dare I say it, sort of show the true colours. So depending, who you work for. And I imagine there's some of these industries are going to be damaged irreparably, to say that word, for a long time, like aviation, for instance. So, and those people are going to go and look to do, I'm sure, other things. But yeah, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? There's so much support package available.
People aren't happy. If they're not happy in what they do, they have a choice.
Yeah, change it.
Use your freedom of making a choice to drive a change. It might not be easy. Yes, there are risks and variables at home, and money needs to come in and family supported, but don't be happy in what you're doing, because you'll bring that into your families otherwise. Be happy in your day to day. And that's exactly the message I'll echo out.
Yeah, do you know as well? I'm a fan of, I'm going to contradict myself again now, because I like the fear factor, in the sense that actually when I get comfortable, I feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense. And I'll give you examples. When I had my distribution business, we had a great business. It's growing year on year. It was really hard work, because I've never done anything that isn't hard work. But otherwise, it was kind of easy. There was no risk. We got past the risk. I got paid every month. It made good money. Jules and I, it was a nice lifestyle business. And actually, because everything was kind of right and we'd done everything we thought we could do, that kind of scared me. The safety element scared me. So we sold it to my best friend and did Grenade, and then look what happened. So, there's an example actually where there was nothing wrong, apart from the fact there was nothing wrong. But I couldn't see myself doing it for another 20 years. When I worked in a gym, one of the gyms I worked at was actually up the road from Land Rover. The amount of people that would come in, and again, good job, well-paid job, would come in and go, oh, I've got a job for life, me. They're never getting rid of me. Oh, I'll be there for the next 40 years. Yeah. And you think, oh, God, you're 20. Just think, oh, that sounds horrendous. And that's not a criticism, because some people are very happy like that. They're content. They're content to do the same job for 40 years because their dad did and their granddad did. And they don't want that change, and they want 3 weeks holiday a year.
Funny you say it.
The life planned out for them. I'd hate that.
I don't necessarily feel like there are such things as jobs for life anymore. I think the whole market has changed now. And I think this compounded on top of that, there isn't such a thing for jobs. Like, we have to be prepared that things will change. And what do they say? In order to keep evolving and succeeding, you need to get comfortable in the uncomfortable. That's the reality, right? We have to get you to drive magic. We need to be uncomfortable, and that's the only times that we're put under the pressure to do it. Okay, Al, you've had an inspirational story. I'm sure people have said that to you before, but you generally do. What's more inspirational for me is 10 years on with the company, I bet you're as passionate, if not more now, than the day you started it. And that is testament to what you've created and how you operate. And that will be the reason why you've got 70 staff across 3 continents, making the revenues up to 100 million that you do, why the business is going, because it's infectious. So thanks, Al. Appreciate your time. Good luck with everything that's happening. I hope I get to meet you at some point when we're allowed to see each other.
Definitely. Yeah, in reality. Thanks for your time, Ricky. Much appreciated. Cheers.
No problem. Thanks, Al. Thanks very much. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.